Hello and welcome to the League One predictions, where I predict the league. As I said previously on the League 2 one, I do not have a affiliation with any of these clubs. I really wish my team was in League 1 with some of these teams, but unfortunately that isn't the case. Which is, it is what it is. But I don't support any of these clubs, and it's all based on my opinion and nothing else. If you don't know, I support Hereford, who obviously play in the Conference North. So yeah, I don't have any affiliation with any of these clubs. So let's get started with 24th place. So bottom of the league, I've gone for Walsall. So they have sort of a new manager in Dean Keats. He came in at the back end of last summer and really struggled. And the signings they've made, Ginnerly, who is on a free from Burnley, he has been, played a lot of football in the conference. Then they signed Zeli Ismail, who obviously was a part of the team at Bury, who got relegated. Chris Dunn, a keeper that's come from Wrexham. And then Andy Cook, who's come from Tranmere. So a lot of them non-league signings. And Keats didn't do too well when he was in charge last season. So yeah, I've gone for them to finish bottom. And yeah, I'm not really impressed with their signings. So Walsall to finish bottom, which I reckon is quite a shock. I don't think many people would have gone for them to finish bottom of the league. Anyway, 23rd place we have Wycombe Wanderers, who have recently got promoted under Gareth Ainsworth. So they've made some signings. Nobody overly impressive. Very average signings. They finished second last year, and I think it'll just be too much for them. I think it'll just be that little bit too much for them. And, I think it'll be a very tough season. I would be really surprised if Wycombe survives. I've gone for 23rd. Sorry about that. I've gone for Wycombe Wanderers. In 22nd place, we have Accrington Stanley. I would absolutely love it if Accrington survived under John Coleman. They remind me a lot of when Hereford were in that league. We do amazing to have survived, and it's similar to Accrington. They've done amazing to get there, and anything besides relegation would be a success. And they won the league, but they've signed players that don't really fill me with confidence. I think it'll be another hard year. So next we have Gillingham FC in 21st place. It's been a lot of wheeling and dealing, but their manager Steve Lovell is, I think, new, or let me have a look. So he was assistant manager, he's been caretaker before, but besides that he's not managed any club since 2010. I think it'll be a really hard job for him at this time. They've signed Barry Fuller, they've signed Dean Parrott, they've signed Regan Charles Cook from Charlton, and they made a couple of other signings. But those signings are decent, but I just feel like it's going to be really tough for Lovell, and I don't know, I think it's been on the cards for a while that they get relegated. So I've gone for Gillingham. Very inexperienced manager, and the signings they have made aren't great. So 21st place we have Gillingham. So 20th, which is just outside the relegation zone, I have gone with Southend. So Southend are currently managed by Chris Powell, and the signings they've made don't really fill me with confidence. They've lost a lot of experienced players and players that have been there for a while, and the signings they've made, there's a couple of non-league players in there, and then there's Tom Hopper, who previously played in the non-league. I mean, it could go well, I think that they'll definitely stay up, just about. I think Power will be fine. But I don't think it'll be much more than just survival. They could be in for a really tough season. So Southend are 20th. 19th place, we have Doncaster Rovers under Grant McCann, who started last season off at Peterborough, and he ended up getting sacked, and then he's coming here. Once again, their signings aren't that impressive, and I'm not convinced 100% by Grant McCann. He's still a very experienced manager. The signings aren't that impressive, and I just feel that they are in for a season of struggle. But I think they've got enough to stay up. In 18th place, we have Fleetwood Town. Now, this one could go really well, it could go really badly. It's hard to tell. It really is hard to tell. But they've lost, some experienced players, some players that have been there, for several years, and Nathan Pond, who's been there for 10 years or so. They've made some good signings, to be fair. Tommy Spur for Preston on loan. He's a very good defender. They've signed Chris Long and Dean Marnie. Dean Marnie should be very good at that level. Ched Evans should score goals at that level. Jason Holt is another good loanee. It's just the fact that they've gone with a manager, obviously, in Barton, that could be perceived as we just don't know. I've written down here it could go really well, really badly, but I feel if it does go really well, then they could still slip away, or if it goes really badly and they're bottom, somebody could come in and save them. So I think Fleetwood will be fine with their side. I don't think they will get relegated at all, which I think some people are predicting. In 17th place, we have Rochdale. Rochdale survived on the final day. They had loads of games to play, if I remember correct, because of their run in the FA Cup, where they drew with Spurs and then got hammered in the replay at Wembley. They've not really lost anyone too significant besides Niall Canavan, who's gone to Plymouth. They have made some signings, once again, not too impressive. But I feel like Hill will be able to get the best out of this squad. And I think that's really important. And I think they'll survive. But I do feel maybe this squad, as of recording on the 1st of August, isn't quite good enough. But I feel like they could do with a couple of loanies or something just to bolster their side. Okay, so 16th place we have Shrewsbury. So Shrewsbury, obviously isn't too far away from where I live, and what they did last season was absolutely incredible. And the problem is, with huge success, you always have that down period. You always have people leaving, people finding better clubs and whatever. So they lost their manager Paul Hurst to Ipswich Town in the summer, and John Askey, who did amazing at Macclesfield, has come in. They've lost, obviously, some of their loan players have gone back, and that's not disappointing, but it's part of the game. They've lost a lot of players. They've lost Alex Rodman, Abu Ogogo. They've lost Junior Brown, who was very, very key. Joe Riley, who was a part of that squad. And they've brought in players that could potentially do well. But I think it's going to be a season of transition. I certainly don't think they'll get relegated. I just don't think they'll reach anywhere near the heights they did last year. So they've signed Steve Arnold, goalkeeper from Barrow. They've signed a winger from Dagenham and Redbridge. Obviously, that's usually a bad thing, but obviously he knows them. He knows that league very, very, very well. There's not many signings that are above where they've been playing. They've signed Joel Coleman on loan, and they've signed Charlie Colkett on loan, both from Premier League sides. But I think it's going to be a season of struggle. But I think they've got plenty. In 15th place, we have AFC Wimbledon. I think a lot of people will go for Wimbledon to get relegated because they're such a small club. But here's why I don't think they'll get relegated. They made some decent signings. James Hansen is a big direct player. Anthony Wordsworth has been there and done it, as has Scott Wagstaff. And they've chucked in a few young players who, could do really well. They've lost a lot of players. Lyle Taylor is a big loss. But I think they've got enough, and I think they'll survive just about. I think they'll be down there for a long period of time, but I do feel that they will get out of it. So in 15th place we have 15th place we have Wimbledon. So then we go into 14th place, and this time I have gone for Bristol Rovers. So Bristol Rovers had a terrible defeat. I think it was their last friendly of the season against Exeter. But I think they'll be around mid-table again. So they finished 13th last year according to this. And, I think they'll be around that again. So they've lost Ellis Harrison, who was obviously a huge threat for them. They got a lot of money for them. And the players they've signed are, good campaigners, like Ed Upson, Alex Rodman, should be really, really good signings. They've signed Gavin Riley, who was really good for St Mirren last year. And, that squad could get better. I mean, outside of, they've lost a few others. But I think they will be around mid-table. Maybe, like Wimbledon, they might struggle for a little bit. But I think, when push comes to shove, I think Bristol Rovers will be fine in the end. So we move on to 13th place. We have Oxford United. Oxford United have signed, Luke Garbett, who, is very highly rated. They signed Jamie Mackey, who's played in the Premier League for QPR. They signed Samia Carruthers, who's done it before with Sheffield United, and they've lost Ledson to Preston, and then they've had a few outs. But I think that they will, move away from relegation very comfortably and be around mid-table. Maybe start to push for the playoffs. But I don't think they will get in the playoffs. I don't think they'll get relegated. I think they'll be around the mid-table area. Carl Robinson is a decent manager, and he should be able to get them well away from that. So 12th place, we have Luton Town, who have once again made some good signings. They've signed Shinnie, who's a very good signing from Birmingham, Sonny Bradley, George Grant, who has done really well in Notts County and is gone on loan from Forest now to Luton. They've had a couple of experienced campaigners. I bet they're quite gutted to lose Ollie Lee, who has been really, really successful with the club. But they play some great football. They've made some good signings. Maybe they'll be involved with that sort of top tier. But I don't think they'll be anywhere near the relegation places. I think they will be fine. So 12th place we have Blackpool. So Blackpool are managed by Gary Boyer, who I think is a decent manager. I've always thought that when he was at Blackburn and now obviously at Blackpool. I think he's been a really good manager, and he seems to get the best out of their players. So they've signed a lot of free transfers, a lot of freebies, players that should be able to play at that league. They signed some good loan players. They signed a couple of players coming from lower down, Harry Pritchard and Michael Nottingham. They've also signed a few loan players, including Joe Dudu, who was previously with Leicester City, now at Rangers. And then they've signed some experienced campaigners such as Chris Taylor, Mark Howard. So yeah, I think they'll be around mid-table. I don't expect them to challenge for the playoffs. However, I don't expect them to be anywhere near the relegation zone. I expect them to have another mid-table finish at the club. So on to 10th place, and this time I've gone with the first club that has come from the Championship, and that's Burton Albion. So Burton Albion haven't lost too many players. They've lost a couple of players, but they've signed David Templeton and Scott Fraser from over in Scotland, and they have a decent side. I just don't think they've got enough to be in the playoffs. I don't think they're good enough, and that's just my opinion. Obviously, they're still managed by Nigel Clough. So, yeah, despite how well they did at the end of last season, I just don't know if they've got enough for the playoffs. But 10th in the long-term perspective thing is still a good achievement for Burton, Little Burton, who have done exceptional to be where they are. I'm totally jealous of them, as is pretty much every club in the non-league. Scunthorpe United are 9th place, so they haven't seemed to have improved a lot. They've lost Connor Townsend, who was a key player. They've lost, other players have gone to the same level. They've made some signings, a lot of young players. John Flatt, 23, James Horsfield, 22, Oloma, I think I've seen him play, if it's who I'm thinking of, at Southampton, 20. They signed Cameron Borthwick Jackson on loan, 21. They signed a lot of young players. Has Dawes? Yeah, Nick Dawes. And I expect them to be involved in the playoff picture, but I think they've just not got enough to finish in those playoff places. A 9th place is where I think they will finish. In 8th place, we have Coventry City. So I've been quite impressed with their business this summer. They've signed Zujon Sterling, who's very highly rated. Johnson Clark Harris should be able to score goals at that level. They've already got a very good squad. Obviously, they've lost Mark McNulty, which will be suffered. But they've signed Junior Brown and Obugo Agogo, who were really, really key in that Shrewsbury side that did so well. So I don't think they will, go up or anything, but I think they'll have a really good season under Mark Robbins with a very, very good squad, and I think they will be around 8th place. In 7th place, we have Bradford City. So I expect them to have a better season than they did last year. I think they've made some really, really smart, good signings. Hope Akpan, Kelvin Meller, these are players that have done really well previously. Sean Scannell is another good signing. Signed a few loan players who could be very, very good. But I'm really impressed with their transfer dealings. They've not lost anyone too major, but Michael Collins is a new manager and a very experienced manager, and I think that it's one of those things that could do really well or could do really poor, but with all of these new experienced managers, someone's going to do well, and I think it's going to be him. And I think Bradford are going to be involved during the season with the playoffs, but just miss out. I just can't see them, getting promoted or being involved in the playoffs. But 6th place, Koki. 6th place is the first playoff position, and that is Plymouth Argyle. So they've just missed out last season, but they've made some, better signings. They've signed Ladapo, they've signed Niall Canavan, they've signed Joe Riley, and they signed a few other young players. And I expect them to push on. I think they're better than they were last year, and I think they will get into that playoff. So whether it's 6th, 5th, 4th, or 3rd, I've gone with 6th, but I think they could finish higher, and I think they'll be involved in that playoff picture. They were really unlucky to miss out on the playoffs last year, but I expect them to once again improve under Derek Adams and finish in the playoffs. So 6th place is Plymouth. 5th place. Another side that's improved with their signings, a lot of young players, and then some really experienced players, but the right ages. is Kenny Jackett's Portsmouth. So yeah, they've not really lost anyone of note, and they've signed Tom Naylor, Lee Brown, and players that have been there and done it. And I expect them to improve on their 8th place last year and then become a playoff side. So I think they're a little better than they were last year, and that will allow them to finish higher up and be a playoff team. Okay, so that is 5th place. In 4th place, we have another P team, and that is Peterborough United, who have been very, very busy indeed. So they've lost, Jack Baldwin, they've lost Guion Edwards, and they've lost Jack Marriott. And I think that will be, really, really harsh on them. But one man that is very good at promotions is Steve Evans. As much as the man isn't a very nice person, he knows what he's doing when it comes to this. He's got promoted with Rotherham through the playoffs. So they signed, players that have been about, and a lot of players here from League Two. So obviously players that have made the jump, the likes of Matt Godden, the likes of Colin Daniel, and they've still got a really, really good side. And he's a promotion specialist, and I think they will finish, in the playoffs at least. And I think he is, a really, really good manager when it comes to that. Whether you, like him or not, he is good at what he does. 3rd place, we have Charlton. So Charlton finished, where did they finish? I think they finished 6th. Yeah, they finished 6th in the league last year, and I think they've improved with their signings. They've lost Konza to Brentford for a lot of money, and then they recently lost Josh McGuinness before I made this list. However, Lyle Taylor is a great signing on a free. That was a really, really good signing. They've signed a left winger from Belgium. Obviously, I don't really know how he's going to do. Darren Prattley at 33 is a very, very good player. I think they're better than they were last season. Be interesting to see how Lee Boyer does. He did pretty well at the end of last season, and yeah, I was really impressed by them, and I think they'll be in the playoffs and potentially win that playoffs. But another playoff campaign for sure. In 2nd place, and the first promotion place, is Barnsley. Barnsley haven't really bought anyone. They bought Kenny Dougal from Sparta Rotterdam, and they've sold a couple of players. But having said all that, just because they've lost a few players and they've not signed many players, I think they have a really, really, really good squad, and I feel that squad is good enough for promotion. We saw 3 sides go straight back up last season, and I think that might happen again. Not all 3 sides, but I think most will. I've gone on, obviously Barnsley. The other side, is another. But they have a really good side. Looking at their squad, Kiefer Moore, he was really good for Rotherham at the start of last season. Cameron McGeehan is a very good player. Tom Bradshaw, he could do a job. Zeki Friars, Alex Mowat. So they have a lot of very good players, and they should be aiming for automatic promotion. I put them in 2nd. Their new manager is Daniel Strendel or something like that. He had a really good record at Hanover. I'm not really sure why he got sacked, but he had a decent record at Hanover, and I expect him to be a really good manager and get them promoted. In 1st place, we have Sunderland. So they have a new manager in Jack Ross, who's very, very highly rated indeed, and I expect them to once again go straight back up. So they've made some decent signings. So having a look here, Tom Flanagan, John McLovin. They've also brought in Luke O'Neill, Jerome Sinclair. He could have a good one. Glenn Louvens, Jack Baldwin. So they've made some really good signings. Obviously, they've made a lot of money here. They've made around £21 million, £22 million in income, over £22 million in income, plus all that wages. So they've had a decent, obviously a new owner in Stuart Donald, and they still have some really good players like Lee Catamol, Didier and Dong. Whether he'll be there or not, I don't know. Aidan McGeady, Duncan Watmore, You know, they have a really good side, and that should be enough to get them promoted. So first place we have, you know, the quality Sunderland, who I bet are looking forward to this season just a little bit to, you know, start to, you know, enjoy the football again. But yeah, so that is my side. So to go through it again, we have Walsall, Wycombe Wanderers, Accrington Stanley and Gillingham as the relegated sides, and then mid-table we have from worst to best Doncaster, Fleetwood, Southend, 20th, sorry, Rochdale, Shrewsbury, AFC Wimbledon, Bristol Rovers, Oxford United, Luton Town, Blackpool, Burton Albion, Scunthorpe United, Coventry and Bradford. In the playoffs we have Plymouth Argyle, Portsmouth, Peterborough United and Charlton Athletic, and then the promoted to Barnsley and Sunderland. So that's my predictions. Tell me your predictions below. If your team are much lower than, you know, you think, then I apologise profusely, but, you know, tell me your thoughts down below on how you think your club will get on, or where you think I'm right and where you think I'm wrong. You know, thanks so much for watching this video. If you're new, hit subscribe. I have the championship one coming out soon, so keep an eye out for that. My name is Mike, and I will see you soon.